Alright, so this is part 2 of my Tillotson 236 mini bike engine build. This time we'll be installing this Burris side cover stud kit that I had gotten from ARC Racing. It's a Tillotson 225R block that I had prepped and deburred and all that and painted last part of this series. Side cover is also a Tillotson side cover. Engine block and side cover came from EC carburetors. They are genuine Tillotson parts. Alright, I'll start by putting just a drop of red Loctite into the hole that I'm going to be working with. I take stud and two of the nuts that they supply you with, run them together like that. Take two wrenches, these are 13mm, two box wrenches, lock them together good. And take the Loctite again. Drop on them threads. So I can drop in the hole, drop in the threads. You don't need to use a lot of Loctite. I see that so much where people just use way too much Loctite. Don't prep the threads properly. You want nice, clean, dry threads if you want your Loctite to work properly. So yeah, I ran the bolt in and then back out. That helped to distribute the Loctite evenly on the threads. And I'll go back in, and I will torque these to 60 inch-pounds, which is 5 foot-pounds. I recommend using an inch-pound torque wrench just so you can kind of come up on the torque instead of, I think you have more possibility of over torquing if you're going 5 foot-pounds on a foot-pound torque wrench. You don't need to go a lot, you just want to seat it. It's seated. Take two wrenches again. Break them loose. Break the nuts loose. I want to be careful when you break the nuts loose that you're not breaking the torque on the stud. Move on to the next one. I put the drop of Loctite in the threaded hole first to give it a second to kind of run down while I'm putting the nuts on the stud. Loctite. It's almost a little too much, so I kind of wipe a little bit of that off. And once again, run it in and back out again. first couple engines that I built were Predator 212s, and I just used, for the sake of making it look fancy, the 12-point ARP stainless steel bolts. Actually had a side cover come loose, and repeatedly on the one motor it kept coming loose. So then I went to these studs after trying to use those bolts again, and new Loctite, it still came loose again. Went to these studs, and then I figured at the same time I just got rid of the side cover gasket altogether. So in order to do that, there's other things to take into consideration, because that side cover has an effect on your end play, on your crankshaft and camshaft. So to make it work without the side cover, my next step after this is going to be putting the camshaft in with the side cover and seeing what I have for side play. Then I will actually have to machine off some of the camshaft boss. So the stud came loose on me. That camshaft boss to set my camshaft end play, and then I'll have to do the same thing with the crankshaft after I install the bearings. To fix the end plate on the crankshaft, I take a little cut off the end of the crankshaft. And then I found some lock plates for the nuts that are actually Harley-Davidson part for inner primary bolts that will work with this size of nuts that you use with these studs. So I won't use these nuts when I go together. I'll use a flangeless nut up against these lock plates. And then instead of the gasket, I use Yamabond sealant, which actually you can't get Yamabond anymore. It's a three bond product that I've been using for quite a few years on Harley engine cases and stuff. So between eliminating the gasket, running those lock plates on the nuts, it's never been an issue since, so I just go ahead and do that right off the bat. It's probably extremely overkill. A lot of people say that it's got to do with venting the bottom end to the cylinder head and you should just run more vent hoses. I don't really see that. I think it's more of a flexing issue with the torque converter and the amount of power that we're putting out with these. It's just kind of rocking the whole thing and just working everything loose. So if you eliminate that soft gasket and make it a hard interface between the side cover and the engine case with the sealer to take up the minor imperfections, it's a lot more solid setup, and I think that's why it remedies the issue. As far as breathing goes, I don't know as far as if you need to be running all those external breathers. I mean, Harley big twin, 114 inch, 117 inch motors breathe through two 1/8 inch holes on each cylinder head, and that's it, and they do just fine. So why do we need 2 3/8 hoses running between the case and the cylinder head on a 212 motor? But I don't know, maybe there's something I don't understand about that. And also, I believe the recommended torque on these side cover bolts for your final, installation is like 17 foot-pounds. I've started out that, and I've since gone up to 20. I think that's fine with this size bolt. I've seen this size stud be torqued up to like 26 foot-pounds with no problem. So I feel like 20 is just fine with it. I do the same with the cylinder, with the head bolts too. I go to 20 on those. And once again, I'm going to 60 inch-pounds on these studs with installing them. And all that's doing is just kind of seating the stud into the threads. I kind of get through this process fairly quickly, because what I'm going to do is, after all these studs are in, is I'll put the side cover on and actually torque it down to 10 foot-pounds, and that'll actually pull the studs tight against the threads so that the Loctite actually dries properly, dries to do its job, basically. I don't know how else to explain it. I feel like if you don't torque the side cover, it allows the Loctite to sit on top of the threads. So when you go to put it together, you torque the bolt, it pulls against that Loctite, squishes it out, and probably breaks the bond that's there. Like I said, I'm probably being a little overkill on this, but I'd rather not have an issue with it. Had it happen once where I put a motor together for one of my friends and went to race, got through practice, and the side cover came off and just dumped all 16 ounces of oil on the track, and I don't want to be that guy. I look at the side cover to see where the dowel holes are, because there's these extra dowels on these Hemi style cases or clone cases. Actually, I'll throw a little Loctite on these dowels to lock them in the case. So you don't get crazy. Just kind of float it in to help evenly distribute the Loctite. You should get a little vacuum lock on it if you catch it just right. Make sure you get them all the way seated in. The Loctite, you get a pretty good seal, so you can trap some air in there so it will fight you to go all the way down. But, so you just kind of turn it and rock it around, and then you actually get kind of a vacuum seal on it, and you can't pull it back out easily. And you know it's in. You can feel it seated. Paper towel, kind of wipe up any excess Loctite. You can see I got a little off there. Good. Drop side cover on. So these are the nuts that came in the kit. Smooth flange, non-locking. They're perfect for this part of step. Torque these to 10 foot-pounds then. Once again, I'm using a inch-pound torque wrench, so I'm actually going 120 inch-pounds. Just to, such a less chance of over torquing everything. Kind of sneak up on it. Crisscross pattern, start at the widest point first. Hit them all again. Now let this sit for about 24 hours before I do anything else with it. Let that Loctite set up good. And the studs should be locked into the case forever. Hopefully. Thanks for watching.